Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Mr. Denny Carter. You may think, why are we still here? The football season is over. But the football season is only just beginning. The biggest games are on tap this weekend. We'll get to more on that in a minute, but there may be a little network called NBC and Peacock broadcasting a number of big, explosive playoff tilts this weekend. But a lot of news, Denny. We got some postseason press conferences beginning on Monday. We got some coach firings. Boy, the Falcons didn't even have to sleep on firing Arthur Smith.
They took a short nap and then they woke up and they said, "Oh God, we have to do this."
It's just a shame. Arthur Blank has fantasy football writer in all of his social media bios. It's just he can't see the game for the beauty.
It's painful. Yeah, I mean, next thing you know, Arthur Blank's going to be talking about completion rate over expected and whatnot.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. So we're going to a lot of coaching talk. By the time you're hearing this, you might already know the college football national champion Michigan is playing in that game, and it certainly seems like their coach Jim Harbaugh is absolutely desperate to get back into the NFL and maybe absolutely desperate to get ahead of the next sanctions that will be slapped on his football program in the Big Ten. So we're going to talk about Harbs. We're going to talk about Bill Belichick. We're going to talk about Atlanta. We're going to talk about the playoffs. The Dolphins kind of limping going into the postseason. Denny's going to have some stuff on teams that are hot and cold heading into the postseason. We're going to talk about the Commanders hiring a basketball guy. Really interesting.
Not sure.
And then I'm going to play a game with you I didn't tell you about. But I'm going to take you through all the seeds, 1 through 7, and just ask you in each league conference, which 1 seed do you prefer, which 2 seed do you prefer, things of that nature.
I like that game. You know, now is the time for games mostly for filling the show purposes, and I'm all for it.
I don't even. What are we? Let's just fill the show talking about Art Smith. I mean, 3, 7, and 10 campaigns, never sniffed the playoffs, although he was technically still in the playoff mixers. It is fun. It is not. We're not trying to celebrate someone getting fired. It is always weird when someone gets fired, but I mean, we were right all along. Certainly seems like.
It seems like the fantasy nerds were on the right side of history here, in that, you know, again, not dancing on anyone's grave, but in saying that, hey, Artie, you have really good players. Like you have Bijan Robinson, who pops off in every statistical category. You have Kyle Pitts, who should pop off in every statistical category. He still does in a way. And you have Drake London, who would be, honestly, I believe, an elite NFL wide receiver on, I don't know, 25 NFL teams. Okay. Maybe more. Okay. So, and you're not using them. And we're saying, we're begging you, it could have been a win. It could have been a win-win, Pat. We could have won, got our little fantasy points in our mom's basement. And he could have won with, I don't know, actual wins and keeping his job, making the playoffs. Instead, it was a lose-lose.
And I just think it speaks. Art Smith is basically a cautionary tale on the cult of the system, the veneration of the system, and the mentality that's taken hold, not just in fantasy circles, but also like real life NFL circles, where it's a very popular opinion. Like if you're going to start your team, you want to start it with the offensive play caller, which I do think is correct. But like we have like put the systems on like such a pedestal now that like it's viewed like. I think the coaches now believe the hype on this. Like nothing matters more than their offensive system, and all the players must like be married to the system and like the individual talent. If you can't fit the system, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You got to be able to block 20 yards downfield,
right? Even
if you're a speedy 5'8" receiver, or if you're a 6'6" freak tight end. And everyone needs to block at the NFL level, but that just maybe we need to take a step back. And coaching is very important. Offensive play calling is extremely important, but maybe not lose sight that it is still the talent that matters the most and not the play calling. Because like some of these teams, like the Texans don't have like amazing offensive play calling. No offense to PFF Bobby Slowick. We saw some rather poor play calling, I thought, in that game over the weekend, but they have an absolutely amazing rookie quarterback who they was kind of letting do his thing.
Right. Yes, that's exactly right. They let CJ Stroud cook, and CJ Stroud, by the way, I was looking through, we're going to get through into some nerdy, geeky numbers in a minute. CJ Stroud's numbers are just unbelievably good this year. But you knew that. Real quick about the Falcons. It's a shame because the Falcons are actually a good team if they never play on the field. Like if you never see them, what happens on the field in the system, right? In service to the system. And what I mean is they have a lot of talent. They're packed with talent on the offensive side of the ball. I even believe Desmond Ridder can be made into a serviceable.
Nope.
All right. Well, we disagree there, but let me throw this at you. Falcons are, according to Pro Football Focus, the third best pass blocking team in the NFL. They're the sixth best run blocking.
Yes.
They have a really good offensive line to go along with talent, and they stink.
And I think this gets into another issue because one of the big defenses of Arthur Smith has been, well, you try to win with these quarterbacks. Like you try to win the vaunted NFC South with these quarterbacks. So first off, clearly, and I am, of course, now inferring here, and I'm guessing, I'm hypothesizing. Clearly, the Falcons do not draft a skill player in the top 8 3 straight years unless Arthur Smith said, don't worry about it. Like, I know we don't have quarterback figured out, but I can scheme this guy the ball. This guy's so special. We got to get him on the roster. Let me figure it out. It just beggars belief. There's literally no way they would draft 3 straight skill players in the top 8 unless Art was telling him, I got it. Don't worry. I can handle it. So I think his system is so good that it was quarterback proof, and it's just not. And that is what I wonder about the Falcons. They have an elite offensive line. They have a pretty good defense. They have skill player building blocks that are basically the envy of the league. But will the new coach just run aground in the same way if they don't get quarterback figured out? And I think clearly this offseason, they're going to figure out the quarterback position.
You gotta bring in someone viable. I mean, it doesn't even have to be elite. Like, it doesn't have to be Justin Fields. It's not
does Justin Fields answer these questions, or is it basically the Bears South with Justin Fields?
That is a good question. I mean, Fields, like we talked about last week, like, he regressed in many ways as a passer this year. So if you're just talking about pure passing, then he's probably not a huge upgrade. I mean, look, I know it sounds funny, but guy like Jake Browning. I'm telling you, Jake Browning be a big upgrade for this Falcons.
He would have been a big upgrade over Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke. I don't know if he's like the upgrade, of course.
No, he's not.
I know that's not what you're saying. I know that's not what you're saying.
But I mean, Browning can make a system work. Is what I'm saying. Just barely, but he can do it.
I do think Fields would maybe not be the answer, but I mean, talk about a system that is just set up at least to have, like, if the quarterback can threaten with his legs, like, look out, because then you have to account for Drake London, you have to account for Kyle Pitts, you have to account for Bijan Robinson, you're gonna have to account for Tyler Algier. I do think that would be a humongous difference between Desmond Ritter, Taylor Heineke, where even if Justin Fields has some of the same foibles as a passer, the way he threatens defense with his legs, of course, would add an entirely. I actually do think the Falcons probably would have been a playoff team with Justin Fields this year.
I buy that. I mean, Fields, like, EPA wise, is solid. Is solid enough. I think that he would have accounted for 2 wins, 2 more. You tack on two more wins to the Falcons total, they get in the playoffs.
Producer Adam wonders. Sam Howell probably wouldn't be the answer, correct? For the football Falcons. I
think over the past month of the regular season, Sam Howell has played himself into a permanent backup role. Like, I don't think any team can look at him now and say, that's the guy. Like well, we can work with that.
You got to get Bailey Zappi on the Falcons. Sorry, that was a total joke.
Is that a joke? I don't know.
It's a joke.
I mean, because Ritter's pretty bad.
Ritter's I thought he was good a minute ago. Zappi is, quote, ain't it at all.
He probably is not it. You're right.
Would Kirk Cousins be a fiasco for this team? I feel like Kirk Cousins is getting ready. I feel like he's getting ready for his Matt Ryan moment, man. Just the guy who's always a statue. Now he's mid-30s and he popped an Achilles. Or even though he's never counted on his mobility, I feel like he even loses like 5% more of his athleticism. It could be like Jover for him as a going concern.
Wait a second, Pat. If Kirk Cousins landed in Atlanta with London and Pitts, I would draft London at the 1-2.
In fantasy, I just realized what you said.
I would draft Pitts in the 3rd round. Period. I mean, you're cooking with Kirk Cousins because he's a distributor. He's literally going to log 0 rushing attempts. He's going to just throw like 730 times. That's awesome for these guys.
I worry about the return of Kirk Cousins and him being a sitting duck. I worry even more than I do with Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers, he had more mobility and athleticism to lose than Kirk Cousins. And maybe Aaron Rodgers has reached the point where he's lost too much and won't be able to lose anymore. But I feel like you don't have to be an elite mover, but you have to be able to move. And I do worry about Kirk Cousins' ability to move after popping that old Achilles.
I don't know. Maybe Achilles are no big deal anymore.
Yeah, maybe that. My physical therapist insists that they are still. My physical therapist always asks me about like football player injuries, and we kind of talk about it. He's like, yeah, I mean, I know they're acting like it's not a big deal, but it's still a pretty huge deal to pop your Achilles.
I mean, I you know, Kirk Cousins' wife was talking about him coming back 2 weeks after he tore his Achilles. So I feel like maybe the science has come, you know, far enough so that they treat it like a high ankle sprain now. I don't know.
Real quick, I don't mean this as a bit either. It's an unanswerable question. Do you think Arthur Smith would even be in demand as an offensive coordinator right now?
No.
Or do you think he's kind of in the Adam Gase zone where he has to like basically go back to square one and rebuild his value, his brand?
Yeah, no, he's in the Gase zone for sure. I mean, I don't know who in the NFL would look at that offense, that Falcons offense, and be like, yeah, I want some of that. Like,
well, I think even if they secretly did, like Arthur Smith's getting a bad rap. These franchises are more sensitive than we think. I think to fan perception and blowback.
Yeah, right.
Art Smith there would be blowback.
Well, yeah, right. Him being volatile, we'll say, screaming at coaches at midfield. Melting down.
He did scream a lot.
Melting down during press conferences anytime someone said, maybe you should throw it to Drake London slightly more. And he would start screaming about, he'd start saying, you know, being attacked by analytics and fantasy geeks and whatnot.
I'll have you run over by a FedEx truck. Like, well,
he's
just asked about getting Drake
London. I was just wondering why Drake London has 0 targets today.
Yeah.
on 32 pass rounds.
Speaking of unanswerable questions, I mean, do you even? So anyone else know about this? You guys remember Jim Harbaugh as an NFL coach?
Remember Jim Harbaugh.
My memories of Jim Harbaugh as an NFL coach was that way different personality, but he was kind of like a Pete Carroll in that he was a tone setter on both sides. But Jim Harbaugh was like a tone setter. Like he came into the 49ers, they were immediately like a super fundamentally sound team. They were kind of a conservative offense, but well, they were a really good balanced offense. I mean, the balance was a weapon for the Harbaugh 49ers. It really was. They could move the ball every which way. The defensive tone, I mean, was elite, hard-nosed. And Harbaugh, he's just like he's a tone-setting coach to me. He could be an anachronism at this point. I mean, he was basically run out of the NFL. He's the kind of the classic personality thing where he's an elite football coach, but he was grading on these professional athletes. And like, you know, if you go to college, whatever, 4 years of Jim Harbaugh, maybe 3, you can deal with that. You're also like, you're kind of more moldable at that age. I don't know how well Jim Harbaugh meshes with professional athletes making millions of dollars. And all this is my long way of asking, do you even think there's like a good ideal landing spot for Jim Harbaugh? Jim Harbaugh, I think, is clearly going to be an NFL coach. This is the year where it actually is happening.
He'll be somewhere, and those players will be miserable. Maybe. I mean, this current iteration of like old man Harbaugh, like Bear Bryant Harbaugh, wow. You know, like talking about milk and chicken and all this. The
chicken thing. Just Google the chicken thing if you have.
Yeah, Google. I mean, and the milk. I mean, he's obsessed with milk. I mean, he's a very idiosyncratic guy. That's not the word.
Idiosyncratic.
And I believe he probably will be completely out of touch with the current professional athlete.
Well, I don't necessarily. I mean, he is currently part of the pipeline feeding them into the NFL. I mean, Michigan's problem has been being almost too cutting edge now, and they keep running afoul of the NCAA's bylaws. And he's been literally suspended twice this year. And
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but I mean, from a fantasy perspective, I'm not going to be excited at all. I mean, I'll be the opposite of excited.
I mean, he made Alex Smith relevant, sort of. He made Colin Kaepernick quite relevant. I don't think it'd be like a fantasy death knell or anything like that.
Really?
No, I really don't.
Yeah, I feel like he's the kind of coach who would be like, look, we're going to score 13 points. If it's
no, he's not that kind of coach. He's not. I think balance is coming back. You have to run the ball again in the NFL all of a sudden. I think maybe I'm almost talking myself into he waited for the right moment. And 4 years ago would not have been the right moment. Maybe now it's like, now you actually need someone to run the ball, huh? So he called old Jimmy Harbs.
That's what he calls himself, by the way.
It's like, all right, we're not going to interview him. No, never mind.
He's insisting we call him Jimmy Harbs.
Jimmy Harbs. So I'll be interested about Jimmy Harbs. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic in some ways. The fiasco potential that you alluded to is quite real. Very,
Yeah,
very,
man.
very
I don't know. I feel like the professional athlete of 2024 is, I know it might sound funny to people of a certain age, but is different than the professional athlete of 2010.
Yeah, I know it's actually not a joke. Even in the past 15 years, there's been a pretty big transformation.
Yeah,
and that's not casting aspersions or anything. It's just
no.
Is what I mean. You and I, we're soft. I wouldn't want to play for a hard nosed. I wouldn't play a coach who told me I couldn't eat chicken. Like what?
Right. I mean, the listeners know all I do is cry and cope, and I'm not saying that players do that, but players are making their TikToks and whatnot.
Well, it is too. Yeah, I think negative motivation. It had its moment, and that moment is long gone.
Oh, it's gone.
None of us respond to it anymore, and he's not even necessarily that kind of coach. Actually,
did you hear Larry Izzo's rant?
Tom Izzo, you mean?
I'm sorry. What did I say, Larry? Tom Izzo.
Tom Izzo. Man, Tom Izzo is dying out there.
Tom Izzo, man. He went on. The most passive aggressive rant where he was like, "You can't. It's on me because you can't blame the players anymore. You can't blame the players
now they have phones.
Yeah, and the analytics stink. Yeah, the analytics can't manage your heart, but you can't blame the players. You blame it on me." I mean, wow, that guy. Woof, Tom. I mean, what were the odds of Tom Izzo going on an anti-analytics rant?
I know. Man, he needed to retire when Roy Williams coached K, and Jim Boeheim. He just needed to go out.
I didn't even know. I did not know that he was still coaching.
They've been struggling a little. They've been struggling.
I would have guessed, as someone who doesn't care at all about college basketball, I would have guessed he retired 15 years ago.
No, he did.
No, he did?
No, he's still there.
No. I was like, did he come back?
No, he's still there. And just in part of his rant, I'm sure he had said something about phones. Like, Coach, we agree. We're all on our phones way too much. And there's definitely bad. But can you elaborate on that? Well, I mean, no, but phones.
we should go back to pagers. That's what
he wants to go back to pagers. Bring pagers back. Bill Belichick probably still has a pager, didn't he? It's kind of annoying. We're doing this show on Monday because I'm traveling on Tuesday. Sorry about that. We're going to have more coaching news by Tuesday, including probably knowing Bill Belichick's fate. So we're recording this where we don't know Bill Belichick's fate. We do know Bill Belichick himself came out and said he's willing to give up personnel duties, which to me was earth-shaking. Like, wow, like Bill is talking about crying and coping. This is like as close as crying and coping to Bill Belichick will ever get. He's actually willing.
That's shocking.
It actually is shocking. Do you think that would, though, in New England or elsewhere, would that cure what ails Bill Belichick at this point? Or is he just too far gone?
No. I think you helped me come around on this idea. And I looked strongly into the numbers, and you were right. Like, Belichick has the defensive fastball still. Okay, like New England's defense was really good, despite an offense that was barely functional, that put them in bad spots constantly. The Patriots they gave up the second lowest EPA per play this year. They were the best against the rush by every measure. Okay, so they were shutting down opposing running games. So if he has the defensive side of the ball, and he gives the power, someone on offense, and then the personnel stuff, I think that can work fine.
And you made the really, really important point about the Patriots defense this year, that it's one thing to be good. It's almost impossible for defenses to post good matches. You can post a good EPA when you have a bad offense, but when you have a bad offense, it's very, very difficult to post elite defensive numbers because you're just the dam breaks at some point.
Right.
And the dam just did not break for Bill Belichick and the Patriots this year, despite having this historically bad offense.
I think if he says, look, I'll do the defense stuff, and somebody else takes over offense and makes the roster decisions, I believe that can work going forward for a while, probably, if he wants to stay there. I was afraid that he was going to go to another team and just be like, I'm taking over, like I'm doing the whole shebang again, and whatever team that would be like, yeah, of course we'll do that. And I think that would be a disaster. A team that's so desperate, so thirsty, like the Commanders say, would just give the whole farm to Belichick. And I don't think that works out in the long term.
mean, again, this could be embarrassing. You might already know what happened to Bill Belichick by the time you hear this, but I mean, I'm sure the Commanders and Carolina Panthers are both trying to trade for Bill
Oh my
Belichick
gosh.
right
You're
now.
right, man.
And the one thing I don't think the Belichick program, I don't think the Belichick program can start over. That's like a 3 or 4 year rebuild to get in like Belichick type players. And that is what I really do think cannot happen at this point. And it's probably a fantasy though for him to remain in New England and give up like really like Bill. So, all right, yeah, guys, I know Bill's been in charge of literally every single decision the past 24 years, but now he's not. So yeah, it's gonna work just fine, right, everybody?
You don't think that can work? No.
I mean, how could he not be the boss? He's Bill Belichick, you know. And
Yeah.
the one thing too, even if he makes a good faith effort to give it up, like Bill is like the ultimate, like if the player doesn't fit a system, it's like, well, he can't play. He's the second rounder. I don't care. He can't play. He's not. He doesn't fit my system. Not my kind of guy. And I think it could run aground there. But I think it could definitely fail. I also think it has to be tried. So it is one of those things where Bill Belichick should clearly be one of the 32 NFL head coaches. He should also clearly at this point needs to try something a little different, and it has to be giving up personnel power.
It has to be different. This past season was catastrophic on every level, except for defensively.
And it's like, yeah, if they had even 25% better offensive personnel, and the Patriots are back on top of the AFC East,
Probably.
like, how the hell did this happen?
Probably, yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't know. I guess Bill O'Brien's got to go. He's got to go.
Yeah, I forgot Bill O'Brien is still there. Oh my!
I mean, whatever he did was way worse than the clown car last year with Joe Judge.
Yeah, Joe Judge, and Matt Patricia.
Hey,
Matt Patricia is putting out fires everywhere.
Oh man, everywhere this guy goes, the team collapses.
They did. We'll get to the Philadelphia Football Eagles in just a minute. We have to take a short break. NBC and Peacock are kicking off Super Wild Card. What, Denny?
Oh. You froze.
I froze. All right. We'll be right back after this. NBC and Peacock are kicking off Super Wild Card Weekend with a bang. Our doubleheader on Saturday begins at 3 p.m. Eastern as we lead you up to Browns at Texans. Then tune into a Peacock exclusive matchup between the Miami Dolphins and Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will then wrap up the weekend on Sunday, bringing you an NFC battle between the Rams and Lions with coverage beginning at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Hello, Denny Carter. Am I still here?
I can see you now, yes.
You can see me now. I think I was in your. I'm blaming you. I'm blaming whatever internet you have. Unless it's Comcast, then I'm not blaming.
It is Comcast, indeed.
Yeah. It was my internet then. I charged.
Yeah, I believe it.
Apparently, producer Adam's blaming on StreamYard. We'll just keep StreamYard. StreamYard. Okay, I said StreamYard again. All right. So sue me. All right.
I will. I think I will.
I said StreamYard, an extremely idiosyncratic regional dialect. And yeah,
it is. Man, that is. I don't know much about Missouri, but I feel like that's a Missouri thing.
There is a Missouri accent, and it's very because most of the time everyone's like, "Oh, you have no accent," and then we do get tripped up on a few really weird things.
Really,
StreamYard. What in the hell's wrong with this guy? Yeah, this is a weird guy. I was like, "What?"
You froze again.
Sorry, I'm going to say yard. I froze again. We're going to keep barreling forward. Denny, the New York Football Jets. A lot of inspiring quotes coming out of the locker room on Monday. Someone told Garrett Wilson he had a good year at least, and he said, "I had a good year?" ? It was the worst year of my life. And then Aaron Rodgers said, "The bleep that has nothing to do with winning needs to get out of the building." We're of course all trying to find
bro. That is a tremendous quote from my boy Aaron Rodgers. I mean, wow.
I mean, come on, man. Are you really that unself-aware?
The awareness level is at a 0.0.
0.0, which leads me to the question then. There's a fairly widespread belief amongst reasonable, smart people, amongst maybe even myself, that just Aaron Rodgers' better health is going to solve a lot of these issues for 2024. But just what are the realistic odds this team actually bounces back with a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers in 2020? A team that has literally the number 2 passing game weapon was Tyler Conklin. Like this is actually a bigger problem, I think, than people are realizing. What are the realistic odds the Jets bounce back?
I think with Rodgers for a full season, they would have been clearly a playoff team. I mean,
probably.
I mean, their defense is really good. I think Breece Hall, yeah, I'm sure we're in agreement. Breece Hall is elite. Garrett Wilson is elite. I don't know if Rodgers will be the same coming back from an injury, but again, maybe the Achilles is not our grandfather's Achilles. Maybe it's just a thing now that guys can get over. But the Jets are in a very precarious situation because 40-year-old coming off of Achilles, you're one injury away from repeating 2023.
So personally, I love to be 40 and coming back from a year not playing my sport with a repaired Achilles.
It's hopeful. I would say it's hopeful.
The guy wasn't even good last year by his standards, I should say. He was a middle of the pack NFL starter in 2022. Right. The Packers got better. But they made the playoffs without him. They were better by EPA per play without him this year.
You're right. This team, though, doesn't need a good quarterback. It needs just a manager, a game manager. And I mean, you put Gardner Minshew on the Jets. They're like the 2 seed in the AFC.
And all this negativity here, I badly wanted Aaron Rodgers to play and see how this worked this year. I felt very robbed of a pretty interesting experiment. We're going to get it in 2024. It's just 1 year and one major injury later. But the Jets, it's weird. They need reinforcements, and they need not Aaron Rodgers approved reinforcements. Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman. This cannot happen again.
Stop. Yeah. You gotta stop. They have to right now. They have to put a stop to Rodgers saying that they have to sign AJ Dillon. Okay. You got to stop that train before it starts.
You've been trying to start it.
But it's going to happen because I don't know. Aaron Rodgers knows AJ Dillon, and that's the only criteria for coming to the Jets. If you know the guy who's in charge, then you get to come on. You get to come, and you get to get paid pretty well. Alan Lazard got a contract that he would have never gotten anywhere else.
Denny, do you remember off the top of your head how much money Alan Lazard is guaranteed in 2024?
No, I don't. What is it?
$10 million.
That's a lot for a guy who's healthy scratched every week. That's just my opinion. Per the analytics, a healthy scratch getting $10 million a year, it seems like a lot. But hey, I honestly, good for Alan Lazard for knowing people in high places.
Will Aaron Rodgers even allow a good backup quarterback too? That was one of the main mysteries of 2023.
That's a good point. I mean, he never came out and said, "Look, I don't want anybody to take my job," but. But I do think that the Jets were in a tough spot where it's like, we can't sign anybody good. Like,
Joe Flacco was on the team last year and was probably their best quarterback.
Like, what are we going to do if the guy we bring in is actually good and we have to, like, I don't know, continue to start him or like be in a position like they basically cannot be in a position where Rodgers' spot on the team is in question at all.
No. Yeah, and of course you don't mean his roster spot or even a starting stat, but like his status is like the center of
savior
the Jets universe.
The savior. Yeah. Yes. I mean, if his role as savior is threatened in any way, that's going to be a big problem. And so they are in a tough spot. I bet you the Jets will come into next year with a disastrous quarterback depth chart. Behind Rodgers.
Maybe even Rodgers has come around on that one.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it means more to him to be the savior than it does to have a good team.
For what we should say, it seems like his teammates like him still. They did vote him most inspirational Jet. I'm not. That's serious. That actually is true.
Thing. Most inspirational.
That's very true.
For I don't know, giving Tuesday interviews.
He had a big. He didn't have a He's making a good comeback from the injury. We'll say that.
Is he?
Yeah, I mean, he's out there walking around.
He didn't come back. Where is he? What happened to the comeback? I didn't see him.
That's a good point. Interesting.
I mean, maybe I just missed it. Did I just miss a game where he played? I don't know.
He went 17 of 21 for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I mean, I actually just looked up Pro Football Reference. I see it now.
But yeah, I am very much looking forward to the storylines in 2024. It's going to be very, very fascinating. But we're still stuck in 2023 mode, even though it is the calendar year 2024, because the 2023-24 postseason is now upon us. We're going to talk about some hot and cold teams in a minute. One cold team, though, is the Miami Dolphins, about as cold as it gets down the stretch. Even though they beat the Dallas Cowboys, one of the big issues, as you pointed out, and as everyone, of course, can see with their own eyes, is Tyreek Hill's ankle injury and how it's hampering this offense. And you say the data backs up, this is your word, that they're mid with Tyreek Hill injured.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be like a shock because this whole team is based on Tyreek Hill's unique ability to burn defenses both after the catch and over the top, and in a way that really only he can do. You know, Sean McDermott said before this Sunday night game the other day, he said, "I've been around football a long time. I've never seen a player like Tyreek Hill," and I tend to agree. I mean, I really am trying not to overstate it, but I have never seen anyone that fast or that good as a receiver ever. So, it makes sense. I mean, if you look at the way he's used here, he's accounted for 44% of the team's air yards, 30% of the targets. That doesn't even really tell the whole story because Tyreek Hill has been targeted on 37% of his routes this year. That is outrageous by any standard. It leads the league by a long shot. He is tied with Devontae Adams for first read targets. And, I mean, you know, just an insane role in a hyper efficient offense. But without him, we kind of see what happens. Now, I know they were without him when they dusted the Jets a few weeks ago. I don't know if that's you can read into that what you will, but I can't help but notice that, you know, he had to come out of the game. He had to come out of the game on the last play of the game, basically when Tua threw a pick while targeting Chase Claypool on the sideline, which seems like a bad plan to me. So this offense depends wholly on Tyreek Hill being 100% healthy, not just on the field, but 100% healthy.
We get the Kansas City Chiefs. It's on Peacock, you may have heard. And as you also may have heard, the temperature at game time is going to be probably like 5 or 6 degrees and going down. Not really a good place for a southern warm weather team to be playing in the wild card.
Listen, you can see the Dolphins helmet over my shoulder there. I've watched a lot of Dolphins football in the winter where things come completely undone in the cold, and this feels like one of them.
That includes even at old Texas Stadium where it snowed through the hole on Thanksgiving Day. I believe that was the Dolphins, and I think they got annihilated that day.
No, they
win.
They won a miracle. It was the Leon Lett game.
It was. I was just hoping they lost.
No. But anytime they had to go to Buffalo in December, it was completely over. Like they're just like no chance.
They won the Leon Lett game.
Yeah, Leon Lett slid into the ball. Pete Stoyanovich came out and kicked a short field goal for the win.
Wow, I didn't remember that part. But yeah, this man too. I love my rehabbing ankle. Absolutely loves being in a real field temperature of like -8 or whatever.
And the Chiefs in their regular season matchup with the Dolphins completely shut down this passing game. So
Denny, you may remember what state I live in, by the way, and it's in the same state as Kansas City.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it being 0 degrees on Saturday.
It's rough. I'll feel for you. We're supposed to be at 55 on Saturday.
So. The high Sunday night is -4.
Oh.
So
What?
We get polar vortex here. Our weather is the literal exact same as Baltimore and Washington, D.C., with the enormous exception that the Arctic air can get pulled down into Missouri. And it gets really, really cold once or twice a winter.
You're going to have to put on a sweater, folks.
I will have to put on a sweater. I will never put on a sweater. So the Dolphins are a cold team heading into the playoffs. Denny, who's a hot team heading into the postseason tournament?
Man. Well, the Packers. The Packers are on fire offensively. Of course, they're the 7 seed playing against Dallas this weekend. Jordan Love is, per the Zoomers, cooking right now. Only Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson have higher EPAs per dropback over the past month than Jordan Love. And the Packers, stick with me here, but this is important. The Packers have the league's highest early down EPA over the season's 7 weeks. And that means basically they're not just getting away with it. They're not just making it happen miraculously on 3rd and 4th down consistently. Okay. So when you have a really high EPA on 1st and 2nd down, it means that things are on time. that the game plan is, I don't know, working, like the Niners under Shanahan always have a really high EPA on first and second down because they're a machine, basically. So the Packers, the Packers are a bit, I think, frightening, should be frightening for the Cowboys.
Yeah, they should be. And man, I know this is like the Mike McCarthy psychodrama. He's got to be like absolutely guilty.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that. Oh no,
it's being dubbed the McCarthy Bowl. And the really important thing you pointed out with Christian Watson there catching fire again. Excuse me, not Christian Watson. Jordan Love catching fire over the past month is that it's been without Christian Watson, because the real quick mini narrative was, so his first major hot streak coincided with Christian Watson's only like healthy stretch in the entire season. And he came out and had a rough game or two after Christian Watson went back down again. Oh man, like Jordan Love is clearly good, but it's not the same without Christian Watson. And then it did just get the same, in spite of every Packers receiver battling some variety of injury. And we were not Jordan Love backers heading into this season.
I think I left the door open.
You did, yeah. But anyway, I got unmasked.
Totally unmasked. I think you got pantsed. I think that's what happened.
I've been just utterly humiliated by
well,
very
sorry. Here's the thing you're missing in this formula of being right and wrong is never admit when you're wrong. You gotta.
It's true. It's a good point.
You got to work on that one. I was
still right about him.
Talking about hot and cold teams, we're gonna bounce around here, if you don't mind. But the Cowboys, they are really quite hot. They have an average scoring margin of plus 11.5 points this season. That's tied with 49ers for the second most, trailing only the Ravens. So they are just crushing opponents. And that number goes from 11.5 to 22 at home. Okay. So they are really in Jerry world. They are taking no prisoners. I think this will be a fun kind of high score.
It'll be a fun game. I do think the Packers party is going to end. The Joe Barry defense is just not going to be able to contain this Cowboys.
Right. I think, that's exactly it. Exactly. I think the Packers could put up 28 points here and still lose.
And I think as much as we just praised Jordan Love, with how bad the Packers defense is likely to struggle, it seems like a game where Jordan Love is probably going to commit multiple turnovers because he's going to be in like a really bad comeback spot. I think that's the most likely game script. Of course, many other game scripts are possible. Mm-hmm. But I just wouldn't be surprised if his unveiling doesn't go as well. His national stage, like true unveiling, doesn't go quite as well as it has over the past month. But that he's certifiably proven to be a legitimate starting NFL quarterback and a player very, very much on the rise.
He's red hot. Yep.
Who's another red hot team heading into the playoffs? So we'll just go through all the hot teams, then we'll get to the cold teams.
Yeah. So you have the Bills. I was surprised by these numbers because so much turmoil, right? And so much drama on the offensive side of the ball, the firing the head of the offensive coordinator. Like, does Josh Allen have it? Like where Stefan Diggs is disappearing. They're going super run heavy. They must be trying to compensate. I don't know. Lots of questions, I would say, about the Bills offense. But let me tell you about the final results of the 2023 season. Buffalo has the fourth best average scoring margin at plus 8.3. Bills are third in EPA per play. They're second in success rate on offense. Despite all that stuff going on.
Steph Diggs hasn't caught a single pass since October 18th.
Right. Despite all that stuff, Josh Allen is an expected points added machine sent from the future. And I think that we have to remember that at all times. When it comes down to it, the Bills tried like hell to take the Josh Allen out of Josh Allen.
They did.
And you saw where it got them, and in the playoffs, that's not happening. Like he's going to do what he does, which is, dive over defenders in the middle of the field on 3-yard rushes, things like that. Okay. Like, he's going to, I do think that the Bills are a legit contender. I know that they're a little weak in spots there, but they're going to put the ball in Josh Allen's hands. And the results have spoken for themselves. Like I said, they are an elite offense despite all of that stuff that happened this year.
They're kind of, Josh Allen just makes them the prototype team you do not want to play in the playoffs. And
right.
I've been workshopping. No one else agrees with me. I really think the Chiefs are still the team you don't want to play because when I think of the archetype of a playoff team that you don't want to play, it's either elite defense or like a Houdini quarterback who creates instant offense. And as much as the Chiefs' offensive struggle, they have an elite defense and they have Mr. Patty Mahomes. And I would be very, very upset. Say if I had to go on the road to Arrowhead Stadium to play the Chiefs this weekend.
That's a horrific spot for the Dolphins.
It basically couldn't be worse.
It didn't hit me until we just started talking about it. But wow, I feel like every week I'm like, oh, the Dolphins can't win this game, can't win it. But I truly believe it this time. I feel like they cannot win this game.
I know. Man, oh man, did things turn out poorly for them? Any more hot teams?
Yeah. Well, no more hot teams. I do have a cold team I want to talk about.
Let's get to the freezing cold teams, Denny.
Yes, the frozen team in northern Florida, the Tampa Bay Bucs, or is it Central Florida? Central Florida.
Yeah, it's like North Central Florida. It's more central than north.
Yeah. Well, we'll go with that then. They're remember I just talked about the Packers not getting away with it. In other words, like they were really good on early downs. Well, the Bucs are the complete opposite this year. They have the third highest EPA on third and fourth downs, but on early downs, they're 26th in EPA. Baker Mayfield has regressed to what I would call Baker Mayfield levels of inaccuracy. Over the final 8 games of the season, Baker ranked 20th among 25 qualifying quarterbacks in completion percentage over expected. So we are struggling. He's banged up. I mentioned this on the Sunday night show. He can barely walk. He was having trouble breathing during week 18 against Carolina because of his rib injury. I know the Eagles are banged up and whatever, but I just don't see how this Bucs team can get it done.
Bomani Jones tweeted the Eagles seem like the kind of team that would turn down a bowl invite in college. Like the vibes are so bad right now, but
oh my gosh,
the Eagles will be beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe.
I have to believe it. Yeah, I mean at full health maybe it's different, but I mean the Bucs early down EPA stuff is very concerning, and even against a bad defense, I think they could struggle.
Any other cold teams you would like to highlight heading into the postseason?
Well, I just want to mention about the Browns Texans game that the Texans secondary has become quietly vulnerable. They're allowing the league's second highest completion percentage over expected on the season. They allow the fourth highest rate of downfield pass attempts on the year, and we know that Flacco likes to go downfield with it. So I think that they set up to be a good matchup for the Browns' passing offense. I think it'll be a close game, but I do like the Browns.
I like the Browns too. I mean, the Texans look like kind of like the classic young team that did hit a wall. It wasn't too much of a wall to keep them out of the playoffs. They seem a little gassed. They seem a little shorthanded.
They are.
They seem unsure of what their offensive identity is. And you pointed out the Joe Flacco fiasco game is probably coming. The turnover-worthy play stuff.
Yes.
But probably not against the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I think Geno Smith is one who said the turnover-worthy plays are a made-up stat. And my counter to that is that all stats are made up.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, what else are we going to talk about, Gino? If you're listening.
Any more cold teams?
No, that's about it. Bucs are super cold going.
They're very, very cold, and yet they had a better record than they did with Tom Brady. So I think by the transitive power, Baker Mayfield's better than Tom Brady.
Baker Mayfield's the Hall of Famer.
Baker Mayfield is the greatest player in the history of the National Football League. It's science. It's science that we need to take a short break, and we will be right back after this. Reigning National Player of the Year, Caitlin Clark continues her incredible senior season Wednesday evening on Peacock. Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes head to Purdue, where the Boilermakers are undefeated at home. Watch two of the hottest teams in the Big Ten face off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Peacock. If you have not watched Caitlin Clark play basketball, I would highly recommend it. It's a force of nature. It's like a true phenomenon. I feel like I'm watching Pete Maravich.
Yes.
I watched a lot of Pete Maravich growing up.
You did in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, I did. But it seems like the closest thing I've ever heard of to Pete Maravich. I was going to say, speaking of Pete Maravich in basketball, we shouldn't even really talk about this one. I was just the Commanders hiring a basketball guy, the former Golden State Warriors GM, Bob Myers. I saw something very concerning about this too. So they're interviewing an assistant 49ers GM or whatever to be their GM. But yeah, that checks boxes. A good team, very successful team, had a good front office. but Bob Myers and this guy, Adam Peters, went to high school together.
Yeah.
They're both UCLA alums. The Commanders are trying to reset, and they hire a basketball guy who's immediately interviewing his college buddy. Seems like I don't know.
I mean, this team. I'm from the Washington area, and I am plugged in to the culture, the Washington football culture, as corroded and woeful as it's become, and the desperation is all consuming. It really is.
Wow.
Like you've never met a more desperate, downtrodden group of fans.
No, you haven't. And understandably so.
We're talking 30 years of futility. 30. And so they're just going to keep reaching for whatever cool, sparkly thing is dangled in front of them, saying, "Please, please save us. Where's our God? Where's our God?" and they'll never find it. It's
Your
just
God was in Oakland and San Francisco, California. Bob Myers has arrived to save the day in our nation's capital. We'll end the show playing our seeding game. So I'm going to tell you the 2 number 1 seeds. Denny, do you know the 2 number 1 seeds? I'm kidding. And we're going to go through the seeds and see which you prefer. It's a totally arbitrary game. There's no real point to it. But
yeah, that's right.
The 2 top seeded teams in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers, they played last month. The Ravens dismantled the 49ers. But which number 1 seed do you prefer heading into the playoffs?
I'm going to say the Ravens because I believe that they are going to commit to the pass. I believe that they are not going to do this thing where they turtle and they get scared and they run the ball and they get conservative in the playoffs like they have in past Lamar seasons. I think that they've unleashed Lamar. I hope they're going to continue that. And if they continue it, I'll take the Ravens.
I think I still prefer the 49ers because I think kind of counterintuitively, I actually worry about the Ravens' ability to run the ball. Like I feel like in the postseason, you just have to be able to move the ball like every which way. You have no idea what the weather conditions are going to be.
Yeah,
you could be playing one of the 2 or 3 best pass defenses very easily every week. And I feel like the Ravens don't have a real running game right now.
No, they don't. No.
It's just out of gas completely. And so like if there's one early like Lamar Jackson interception or something, like just the whole thing unwrap. I feel like the 49ers, we're talking about them being an injuries off team. Injuries have mostly been off. They just have the fewest weaknesses. Not that the Ravens are like just screaming weaknesses, but I still think the 49ers, despite getting dismantled by the Ravens, have fewer overall weaknesses than the Ravens.
Man, I just when I remember what Brock Purdy looked like against that Baltimore defense, I struggle to say the Niners.
Haunting.
Yeah,
how he looked against the Ravens. The second seeds are the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys. Who you got in this theoretical matchup of number 2 seeds?
I mean, I take the Cowboys. I know I just talked about the Bills, like how they're getting it done, despite all the messiness. But man, the Cowboys are just a brutally efficient offense. I mean, that they have talk about unleashed. I mean, Dak Prescott has been unleashed, and CeeDee Lamb is I don't if fantasy drafts had been redone in week 10, CeeDee Lamb would have been the number 1 overall pick. Like
true.
It's that kind of elite production. I don't know. The defense is kind of volatile, but I think that they can score points whenever they want, and that comes in handy in the playoffs.
And this hasn't been like the Cowboys teams of recent vintage where even the good ones had slip-ups like all season long. The Cowboys didn't really have any slip-ups this year.
No.
And they almost lost to Geno Smith at home, but that was just a really good football game that they did win.
Mm-hmm. They did.
They lost to the Dolphins, but this is the least Cowboys-ish Cowboys team in a long time. And I do think if I'm ranking the 2 seeds, I prefer the Dallas Cowboys over the Buffalo Bills. The 3 seeds are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. Who do you prefer in this postseason? Again, this isn't like a theoretical head-to-head, by the way. This is just which team's vibes are you kind of buying more heading in the playoffs, the Chiefs or the Lions?
Give me the Chiefs.
It's the Chiefs. I mean, the Lions fans are probably to the point where you and I are like, they think that this time they'll finally be right, doubting us.
I mean, but Laporta injury is important.
Very important.
I don't think that they're going to get past the Rams. That's what I'll say.
I think they'll probably. Well, I don't know. That's a tough matchup for them, but the Chiefs. I still think the Chiefs are one of the 3 or 4 genuine Super Bowl contenders. They have an elite defense, and they have Patrick Mahomes, and they have Arrowhead Stadium. It's just like they're still the Chiefs to me.
Yeah,
I would not be like, as a Chiefs fan. If I were a Chiefs fan, I'm saying I don't think I'd even be like that scared of a Ravens matchup, because I think the strengths kind of align there almost too. I mean, the Ravens are a better version of the Chiefs, but it's just like, if I think of playoff X factors, I want that defense and I want that quarter. That I don't. The difference between like Mahomes and a Brock Purdy, you want the instant offense quarterback where it's not up to the coach or the scheme.
Yeah,
like to deliver the yards. The quarterback himself can deliver the yards, and that's Patty Mahomes.
yeah, that's true.
Denny's running out of time. 4 seeds: Houston Texans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2 of your cold teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take anybody over the Bucs at this point.
I would take C.J. Stroud getting on a heater in the playoffs, but having his superstar moment further and further. The Philadelphia Eagles, Cleveland Browns, 5 seeds.
I'm with Bomani Jones. Give me the Browns.
Joseph Vincent Flacco has become a force of nature.
I can't believe in the Eagles at this point. I mean, have we gotten word about AJ Brown's injury beyond it's not season ending?
Probably by the time this podcast is live, but I don't know it.
No, I mean, without AJ Brown, they're not going to beat the Bucs. That's what I'll say.
The Browns defense, they're one of the X factors of the entire postseason tournament. And I will say too, like X factor team, you have an elite defense. You don't have like necessarily an instant offense quarterback in Joe Flacco. You have an opportunistic quarterback in Joe Flacco. Or the time he won a Super Bowl, he's playing opportunistic football, hitting big plays. That's what he was doing down the stretch. He was just hunting for big plays and hitting them.
Yeah.
Browns, a very dangerous team. Miami Dolphins, Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, Rams. It's got
to be the Rams, and then the Packers. It's not the Steelers. It's the Packers.
It's yeah, come on. I know. Look, I know Mason Rudolph is getting it done the Steeler way by not throwing the ball ever. But the Packers. Yeah, I do think I like the Cowboys. I will say, if I were McCarthy, I would be scared to death of Jordan Love.
I know.
Right now.
It's tough. It's a tough one. It's never easy for the Cowboys, though. It was never going to be easy for the Dallas Cowboys. It might as well be hard from the jump, prove their mettle, be forged in the fire from the very first round forward.
That's right.
So it's not the Steelers. It's not the Rotoworld football show because it's over. Danny, you have anything coming down the pipe this week, by the way?
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing the funnel defense report, this time with a focus on DFS options and in fantasy playoff stuff. We like that. We get into that. And so I will have that up on Thursday morning on NBC Sports.
You always do really, really great postseason playoff content. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm trying to do an article where I rank the playoff field, by the way. Got some good ammo doing this segment. So I'm not quite sure that's why I'm going to be on the road this week. But we shall see. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with Mr. Kyle Dvorak. Keep it locked to Rotoworld.com all week for all the injury and coaching news. We will catch you later.